Okay, there you are. Share. Screens. Yeah, it's just not in my options. So I am trying to minimize you, minimize Zoom, and gosh, this is crazy. I'm so sorry. Let's see. Okay, I think we've got it. Let me change my view. All right. I think we're there. So sorry about that. Okay. My series that's showing at the Southeast Center is Reclaiming the Muse. And I'm just going to go through a little bit of my background, where I came from, and how I got here. I grew up in New Jersey and went to a community college there near Princeton in Mercer County that had a brand new state-of-the-art dark room and art classes and architecture. And this was, student work, black and white, for my class there. I became the darkroom assistant, so I had access to the darkroom anytime I wanted. I moved to California and started to experiment a little bit with color photography. I did a series on pink. And in Los Angeles, some black and white work inside the Griffith Observatory, rather. And then I moved to Oregon, where we have a place where they repair blimps. And by then I was starting to work with 4x5, and I went so many times to this blimp hangar that the guys took me up in a big cherry picker for this shot. And actually, let me get this. I want to. Oops. Oh no. Here we go again. I was trying to get rid of that side thing. Why isn't it sharing? Share.
Well, you're sharing, it's just not going anywhere.
Oh, here we go. Okay. Oh, from my end, it didn't look like it was working. I moved to Portland, Oregon, and up to that point, I'd only been doing available light, out in the field kind of stuff, more formal photography that I thought was, what you should be doing. I met a studio photographer in the building where I lived, and I had a show at that time at a gallery, and he asked me to assist him. I was terrified because I didn't know how to put a light on a stand, but he urged me to go ahead and do it. So this is some early work, and he was a very good photographer, really great at lighting, and I learned so much there. Really just through attempting to do shots that I saw in my head, I just learned through trial and error about lighting. And I had this idea of doing this Jello mold with the light coming through it. I wanted it to look like a gem. And I must have made 30 different Jellos, and I must have shot this well over 100 times. I have the Polaroids to prove it before I got what I wanted. But that was what was happening at that time, just learning by doing. And I couldn't let it go. I just had to get this Jello shot. And here I'm just fooling around with an old puppet, just playing with lighting, portrait lighting. I wanted to talk a little bit about ideas and where ideas come from. This is something I drew in high school, and I forgot about it completely. This is like one panel, And then the next, if you can see that, it's a nurse walking by with duck feet. Um, and so that was something I completely forgot about. And then years later, I made this image. So it's funny how something can just like sit in the back of your mind for years and then come to the forefront again. As my skills increased and I did more studio work, I got some editorial work with the things I do. When you see my screen sharing, are you seeing your profiles on the right, Michael? No?
No,
Oh, good. I see that somehow. Okay. So this was an assignment for a Portland Monthly magazine. They had an article about the Columbia River, the fishermen that didn't want it dredged, and the farmers that wanted it dredged so that they could get the barges through. And so I went ahead and did this assignment. They were kind of testing me out. And then it ran in their magazine. And that led to another assignment, and this was a cover for their neighborhoods issue, talking about the different neighborhoods. And I had only a week to do it, to build everything and make this. And it ended up being the cover, and it ended up selling more than they had ever sold of the magazines before. And if you don't know, magazine covers are really the advertisement for the magazine. Annie Leibovitz said that. This was a shot I did to commemorate the explosion of eruption of Mount St. Helens in Washington. And it was licensed for this magazine cover. And actually, I had to restage it. I had to do it again because they needed a vertical shot and you know, I needed to redo it again. I had broken the set already, but I was very happy to have that. So I'm gonna show a quick, again, about ideas. I did a series called The Long Night. I didn't know I was doing that. First, I did this shot called The Bad Birthday, and I was breaking the set and took everything down, but except for the car and the outside scene, I was starting to break that down, and it really seemed evocative to me, more than the shot I had just done. And it set me off on this new series I called The Long Night. So I replaced the car and shot this. So it's a noir series. And that led to this. And this shot called Killing Time. And this shot called Slow Dance. So it was about suburbia and the little secrets. So now on to my series I'm showing here, Reclaiming the Muse, which really does reference a lot of paintings, stories, mythology. And it's a feminist series where I'm flipping the script, where women have often been in previous stories and paintings shown as not very empowered, showed as being overcome or helpless or whatever. And I just wanted to flip that. Oh, and I had previously been dipping into mythology and things like that. I did a shot that was inspired by the unicorn in captivity, and I called it Petting Zoo. So just again, to show you how ideas can leak in at different times in your work. So my favorite image even as a kid and through my teens and my 20s was this image by Andre Cortege, satiric dancer. And it was always such a wonderful view of the 20s in Paris and, you know, the wild, free life the artists seem to have. And I always loved this image. I loved how surreal it was and how nutty. So I restaged it literally in miniature. And on the wall, I actually put a miniature print of the original image. We can go back and look at that. So there's an image on the wall there, image on the wall here in the sculpture. So I restaged it in color and in miniature. And then that led to me thinking about the muse. And I was like, well, who was this woman? And why was she in this, wacky dress? And why was she in this position? Who was she? We all knew about Cortez, who he was. So I started researching and found out her name, which I'm forgetting right now. Magda Forster. And she had a successful career herself as a performer, in the, oh, what are they called? In the cabarets. So she had a full career herself and a full name, and she was famous in her time. So I started thinking about the Muse more. And then I started thinking about her life after those crazy days. And this is called Mother's Day. Here's Twinka and Imogen. And again, I restaged this. I didn't put this in Reclaiming the Muse, but it's a literal restaging of that image. This is House of Atlas. And I did this a number of years ago before I had conceived of this series, but it fits in the series very well, I think. I call this Kalasa. Again, it was one I did before I conceived of this whole series, but it fits in. So, the ideas were there in the past. Here is a painting, Leda and the Swan. I'm trying to remember who painted this. I don't have the name in front of me, but it's been painted many, many, many times. And usually Leda is shown as enjoying this act of being raped by a swan, or it's being forced upon her. It's a very weird, to me, it's a very strange, and the story is, the mythology is that Zeus disguised himself as the swan to seduce her. I don't know about you. I'm not readily seduced by a swan, but in the story she was, so they say, or it's the rape of the swan raping her. So I restaged it with Leda a little more empowered and fighting the swan off. This is Gentileschi's wonderful painting of Judith slaying Holofernes, excuse me. Judith slaying Holofernes. Holofernes was a general who came to conquer her village. She was an attractive widow, and he invited her to dinner, and she got him drunk and then slayed him and saved her village. And this is my version, my modern version. And I have to tell you, when it comes to props and things like that, it's a lot of, I made the washing machine. I cut down a plastic basket and fit it together to make the laundry basket. I put the beard on Holofernes' head. I made the cigarette. I made her top. And then I made the tiny Virginia Slims cigarette pack that ended up barely showing, but it's very authentic. and the knife, I got blood on the knife. So, but I really enjoy that part. I love making the props and solving those problems. Here we have Botticelli's Venus, and then my version. And this is called Venus and the Pill. That is a pack of birth control pills, and she has 3 little toddlers. So she's, managing her looks, taking care of toddlers and making sure she doesn't get pregnant again. This is called The Three Graces. Here, of course, we have Michelangelo's Birth of Adam, or Birth of Man, it's also called. And my version, and here she's handing Adam a pack of condoms. And in the original version, I made note that there are 12 characters behind God here. And so I wanted to make sure to have 12 in here, in this weird, and I always wondered, what is this very strange shroud? And in my research, scholars believe that Michelangelo was referencing the human brain with the cord here. This is my Medusa, and she has, well, you know, Medusa was really framed. She was punished for being so beautiful that Athena punished her by making her unsightly, and so that no man would ever look at her without turning to stone. So here she is looking in the mirror and bringing her self-esteem back up. This, of course, references Magritte. And I call this "Ceci n'est pas un homme." This is not a man. This is a lot of people have never seen this image. It's a very strange image that haunted me ever since I was a teenager. It's called The Nightmare. It's by Henry Fuseli. It's very bizarre. There's a succubus sitting on this woman's chest while she's sleeping. A succubus is a monster that visits sleeping women to have sex with them while they're unaware. And then he also has this blind horse coming through the curtain. It's a very bizarre painting, and he painted and drew several versions of it. So it was something stuck in his head. And this is my version. And I call this nightmare, mare being the French mare. So at the time, I had a neighbor that has little toddlers, and her toddlers were obsessed with unicorns. So this is my exhausted mother with unicorn fatigue. Ophelia by Millet. Another story, you know, Shakespearean. Ophelia, well, people believe she committed suicide after Hamlet rejected her. Again, in my research, I found that there are scholars that believe she was pregnant, and he was her, you know, Hamlet was her first love, and then he dumped her. And this is my contemporary Ophelia. Napoleon crossing the Alps by Jacques-Louis David. And in reality, Napoleon crossed the Alps in the midst of winter on a mule, not quite so glamorous. And my version, this is called The Bird. One thing, I'm not a great painter. I do the skies with a mix of gels and lighting, but and then the ground is plaster and painted plaster. But I'm not a great painter, and as I said, as you see in the painting, you know, it's quite a background going on there with mountains and everything. And I thought, how am I going to do that? And then I grabbed a paper bag and crunched it, and it really looks like mountains to me. So I thought, that's great. Here again, we have Twinka and Imogene in Yosemite, but I switched them. And I'll tell you, for reference material, it's really easy to find a lot of nude women, but not as easy to find pictures of older women. This is a very controversial painting by Gustave Courbet. It's called it's French, L'origine du monde, so the birth of the world. And so I redid it. This is a male doll torso. And I did it in the female. And this one I call, oh, what do I call it? It's, La Feminine, La Mystique Feminine, that's what. To me, it's very hilarious. These, you know, it starts to bring up questions like, is this obscene? Is this pornographic? I mean, it's just a plastic doll, you know, and then to have all the genitals gone. You know, it's just very funny to me. Here we have Susanna and the elders, and another story where Susanna was at the bath, taking the bath, and these old lecherous men were coming on to her. And because she did not succumb to them, they threatened her and they said they'd go to the town and tell them that they witnessed her committing adultery. Well, it went to trial, and because the two men had different stories, they described different trees they saw her under having adultery. She ended up winning the case. But in my version, she doesn't let them get that far. And this is Sisyphus. I call this if Sisyphus had friends. And this is kind of this is a very recent piece. So this is sort of addressing what's going on in our world now. The Arnolfini portrait. This is another piece that always interested me. What is it, from the 1500s, I believe, or no, older. I don't know if anyone knows offhand, but some people think it's a marriage. They're not really positive. It's by Jan van Eyck, and his signature is up here. This is another piece another painting I've always been intrigued with. And then I did my current day version, and I call this Modern Family, a Modern Family. And I put my signature up here, which is hard to see where you are, but and again, I build the sets, and I source, alter, or create from scratch all the pieces in my work. And it's very little Photoshop. I really like to do everything in camera, except for, you know, I have to clean things up or add my name like I did here. There was something else I was going to mention about this. Oh yeah, that I've come to the point now where I can take the paint off the faces of dolls and draw them myself. So which I really like, because I don't always like the smiling Barbie, you know, and I can make it look a little more not like a identifiable doll. And I have another quote here. Art should comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. I really feel this strongly with what we're going through right now. So I am going to give you, I don't know where everyone's politics are, but I'm going to give you an image of, I think, what's going to become a new series, because I feel that I'm only going to get more political now. And so this is my brand new piece that almost no one has seen. And this is addressing the normalizing by the media of what's going on. And I call this America's Bake Off. So that is it. That's the slideshow. So I'm happy to take any questions or discussion.
Okay, thanks, Grace.
Sure.
Yeah, that was great.
Okay, anybody out there have anything?
Carolyn, oh my God.
Oh, hi, honey.
Hi. All
I
right.
actually have a question, if that's okay.
Who's that?
It's Daryl, and I keep wanting to call you Gracie. I don't know why, but
Oh, that's fine.
anyway, I was wondering. Well, it's a couple of questions, but one is, I was wondering what format, like if you're shooting like large format when you do it. First of all, I really love the work, and I love the irony in every single one of them. I think it's awesome. But getting back to the question, I just wondered if you were shooting, like large format for it or regular camera, because I know you'd have to be on a tripod to do this stuff. It's all got to be very sharp and all that kind of thing.
Yes, my early work was large format and medium format. Anything you saw in there, I think there's only one really that was square. But yeah, that's when I was shooting film. And then I did come kicking and screaming into digital, and that's what I shoot now. But it's always on a tripod, yeah, always. And I have to shoot, I shoot again and again and move things, a quarter of an inch and
And do you mind my asking, what format is it? Is it like equivalent to like 35 millimeter or medium or
yeah,
format?
it is. It's 35 millimeter. I wish I could have they're very expensive, the digital medium format.
No.
Yeah, so I shoot with a Canon. Yeah.
Well, 35 millimeter, I mean, everything's so good now. The fact is you can
Yeah.
get such good files from everything. I had another
Yes.
question, but I don't remember at the moment, so I'll let somebody else ask you something.
Oh, sure. Come back later then.
Okay, yeah.
I just want to comment how I love the history you're doing with the paintings and the metaphors you're creating with that. I was just curious, how long does it take you to do work on a piece? Because there's so much detail, you know, it's sort of like Richard Tushman who does 2 years to make one
Yes.
picture.
Yes. Yeah. I love
Yeah.
Richard. Yeah, he actually
Yeah.
did a workshop in my studio here.
Uh-huh.
Um, they can take quite a while. I mean, the longest part, of course, is the props, and
Yeah.
it's easier now. Or in the early days, there wasn't eBay and things like that. I used to just go to antique shops and thrift stores and look for things. And my skills have gotten better in making. I'm constantly like that last piece you saw with the Capitol building. I got a I got a 3D printed Capitol building, but then I had to ice it. I had to make it look like a cake. So I
Yeah.
was trying icing and that wasn't working. And then I was trying to do a glaze and that didn't work. And then so I'm always learning something new, which is really fun. And then I found out about royal icing where you use meringue powder. And so I did several layers of that to make it look like a cake. So that part, um, usually takes at least a month, getting all the props, making the props. But then the shoot itself, again, my skills over the years have gotten better and with lighting. And so I usually get it down in a day once I have everything in place. Yeah.
And the other question I had was when you were showing imaging image and you said it was hard to find older ladies' bodies, and you said so are they all dowels or are you getting like pasting
Oh,
in
okay.
print?
So what I meant by that, it was hard to find reference,
Oh,
yeah. But what I did with that is I had an old woman doll that I had already used Fimo to make her face look more like Imogen for the first Imogen shot I did, Imogen and Twinka. And she was clothed. So when you took the clothes off, she just had a cloth body where the clothes had covered. So I took all that off and then I put Fimo on there and molded the body. Uh, so,
Fimo.
so the original doll is, not even there anymore.
Mhm.
And that was funny too, because on the set, I had all this moss and stuff from model train stuff to make the ground. And I had little pine needles that I chopped up and everything. And in trying to set her up against a tree, she kept falling over. So then there's pine needles sticking to her and I'm trying to get that stuff off. So all these crazy things happen on the set when I'm just trying to get something. And I break the set. It's not a diorama that lasts. I've been asked that before. If you're gonna, can you bring your diorama? No, the whole set gets broken afterwards, and right outside the frame are clamps and all kinds of things. It's not
Yeah.
a scene in a box. So, yeah. So it's a funny process. I end up laughing a lot by myself in the studio, also getting
Yeah.
mad.
I do a series with dowels also, and I just can't believe the amount of props one collects because you're like, oh, I may
It's
use this. So I
crazy.
can imagine what you have.
You guys should see my studio. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I've always
Sure.
admired your work. So
Oh, thank you.
appreciate
What's
it.
your name?
Jackie Turner.
Oh, great. Nice to meet
Yeah.
you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Yvette, go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, Grace. Thank you so
Hello,
much.
Yvette.
This was just terrific. And I'd seen, the other day I saw the one with the cake on
Yeah, I put it on Instagram.
but it didn't credit you. I didn't know it was yours.
Oh, really?
So
I
I
put
need
it
to look
on
back
Instagram. I
and
wonder
see.
who shared it. Somebody shared
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh, that's kind of a
anyway,
bummer.
I love your work, as you know. And two questions. One was where you wrote your name, to mimic the original photo. What did it say after your name? It said Grace Weston, and then I couldn't read the other
On the Arnolfini, where?
on the
Oh,
wall where you had
on
it.
the Arnolfini, yeah. What does it say? It says, oh, the original says, Jan van Eyck was here. And
So
so,
Grace
but
Weston
it's all
here.
in that, it's in,
Okay.
I don't know what in his language. And so, yeah, so I did that and I looked up fonts and tried to get, squirrely fonts that looked like
Yeah,
from.
I love how intelligent your work is like that. And then my other is a question, but I think I know the answer. But part of the joy of this, I imagine, is the process of, being able to create it. But like when you said you've learned how to take the facial features off the dolls, it seems like a lot of this could be accomplished now with AI. But you don't want to deal with that?
I do not. I barely, I know like 4 skills in Photoshop, I've always been a hands-on person and
Right.
I'm
No,
not,
I understand. I agree with you. I just was
yeah,
curious though, because like even the icing on the cake, I imagine you could have
I probably could have,
added
yeah.
blah, blah, blah to the, I don't know
Yeah.
how it works. I haven't tried it myself, but
Yeah, I know there's all, I have, people that have said, oh, you could do this, you could do that. It's just not my jam, and
I understand. I just wanted to be
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
I didn't
Well,
know.
I'm
I
not
thought
gonna make
maybe,
anything easier for myself.
yeah, I thought maybe you'd say, well, you're thinking about it or you've tried it and you don't want to, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
thank you
Well,
so
it's
much.
so good to see you, Yvette. Yeah.
And I appreciate if you're going to start a new series because it would be great comic relief. I mean, we need
Oh my
that.
gosh. Well, I'm really, the normalizing of what's going on the media is blowing my mind. It's just like, these are
Mhm.
not normal days. And everyone seems to know it, but they're not broadcast, it's not being
Right.
broadcast by the media the way it should be, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
there's plenty there to address for sure. I've got a number of ideas, so I'll be continuing with that. I
Well,
think,
I look forward to it.
I think I'm
Hmm?
going to call it American Horror Show, the series. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Or the midnight thing, what EO did he put out at,
What's
how
that?
he puts out his executive orders at night,
Right.
the midnight EO horror show.
Right. Oh my God.
I know when I see your work, I can't help but think, this is Daryl again. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
No, it's,
No, that's fine. Go on.
I was going to add to what Yvette was saying. I mean, when I see your work, like in my mind, I just had this vision of like the Iwo Jima image and like Trump and Elon and the flag just being something else, just because, you know, the forces, maybe Kennedy, I don't know, but the forces that are, quote, raising the flag or doing, I feel like everything, well, not to get political, but are doing everything to sort of like wreck everything. And so,
yeah,
but are you
I might steal that idea.
That's okay. I would be proud. I'd be really proud of that. Are you going to juxtapose the new work against these are going to be all new ideas. In other words, they're not going to be modeled after painting or anything like that. These are all just
No, this would be a new series.
yeah.
And I still have ideas for Reclaiming the Muse. So I don't know that I'm done with that. I did want to have, 20 pieces for this show. And that's one of the reasons I really appreciated getting a little more time to get this. Like I said, the Sisyphus image is, was only a month or so ago. Yeah, maybe a month ago. But yeah, I have this, I swim, and when I swim, I get all these, it's very meditative, and I get a
Yeah.
lot of ideas when I'm swimming. And the other day, I was swimming and I started getting ideas about this new series. And I was like, what, am I going to do a new series? Am I, but I had to cut my session short because I was afraid I was going to forget these ideas that were coming into my head. So it's just weird where ideas come from, or when, middle of the night often, things like that.
Somehow I'm not surprised you had to cut it short. I had a feeling, because as you were saying it, I was thinking, how could she stay in the water after? And when you, so I was, I get it. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And do you feel sad or any kind of disappointment when you have to break down maybe sets that you had to really, really work hard on or took a lot of, manual labor? That's one question. The other question is, I missed the very beginning and I wondered if you have any background in set building or set design and stuff like that.
No, I don't know. But it does harken to when I was a kid for sure. I made little scenes. I was kind of an isolated kid. And so we had a lot of stuff going on in my family. I had a death of one brother and the other brother was sick. So I
Mhm.
kind of had to take care of myself. And I used to entertain myself with setting up little scenes. And I would change them and I would take pipe cleaners and dress them with crepe paper and things like that. And it wasn't until years later when I was doing this work and I was writing an artist statement, I was like, why do I do this? And I realized I kind of always did it. And I've always liked tiny things. So there's that. And what was the first thing you said though?
Oh, I was asking if you felt like any kind of
Oh,
sadness
sadness.
when,
Yeah.
or on special ones, maybe certain ones. And if so, I guess I was wondering which one maybe was like the most difficult for you to take down. If there is any difficulty, maybe you're glad to be
Yeah,
finished.
there is sometimes. The Arnolfini was really an involved piece and really took a lot. And I really,
Remind me what that image was again,
oh,
please?
that's the one with the that Jan van Eyck did of the couple, and she looks like she's pregnant, and
Yeah, got it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so that set was very involved, and it was also larger. I often work with smaller dolls, but now it seems I'm working with these larger Barbie size ones. And I made so many props in there, and I stained wood, and there was just so much to it. And it really took up a lot of space on the table I shoot on. And
Mhm.
it's hard to break that one down. But I also, I save a lot of little props. I have like, um, I'm gonna bring I'm
Oh,
gonna show
good.
you.
Is this your studio that you're in right now?
It is my studio, and
Cool.
can you guys see my, let's see, all my little drawers of all my stuff?
Yeah.
So it's crazy, and I have, I have like favorite characters. Is that showing? Can you see
Yeah.
in the drawer?
Yes.
Yeah, so I have little favorites. I have, there's kind of a hierarchy to my little props and things. Um, yeah, so I save a lot of things. I do, I do a New Year's card every year for collectors and friends, and, um, I have a character that, a little astronaut that I made the whole outfit for, and it's just like, I just don't want to take that apart,
Yeah.
She's only
So-
5 inches tall and she's really cute.
So can I jump in here?
Thank
Sure.
you.
We're Jim.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. I was gonna say, your work is really awesome. I
You.
noticed what you showed at the beginning. There was a feel to all of the images, and for me, it reminded me of photos that would have been made in the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s.
Yes.
And then your what I want to say, what you did in the series is completely different feel to it.
Yes.
I really have enjoyed your creativity, the things that you do. I can't do anything like that. I'm strictly Photoshop and camera,
Uh-huh,
Um,
uh-huh.
uh,
Fine.
and I've been enjoying listening to you talk and discuss what you do and how you see things. Great creativity. I was going to make one little comment.
Okay.
You showed the Courbet.
Yes,
The title is Origin of the World. Okay.
right.
Yeah.
But
And
it's French.
you said the
Origin
birth
of
of
the
you said the birth of the world.
Oh, did I? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, L'Origine du Monde is what the
Right,
French,
right.
yes, origin of
And
the, that's right.
yeah,
You're-
and that was first shown at the Louvre, and
Yeah.
it caused a huge problem with the Parisians, and it was so people were so incensed by it that they had to bring police in to make sure that nothing got out of control. So that's a little historical thing.
And there's speculation that it's, well, it was done for a client. He did it for, basically, it was, he painted porn for his client.
Mhm.
Wanted it. But there's also speculation that it was part of it was originally a larger painting of his mistress, and then he cut that part out just for the
Yeah.
client. Yeah.
Did you there's a video at the I think it was at the Louvre, and I think it was in front of Courbet's work. This is something that happened just a few years ago, and this woman came in and sat down with no panties on and spread her legs. And
Yes.
yeah, did you see that? It's amazing. Yeah. So
So it still provokes, that's for sure.
yes, exactly. Anyway, I'm done.
May I
Thanks, Jim.
may I share with you, Grace, please? If you'll permit me, I will be completely honest. And when I saw your image in the email, it was completely impenetrable to me, conceptually, intellectually, or emotionally. I couldn't be moved by it. I was intrigued, but it was impenetrable to me. So what you explained today was really, really interesting, because without the background, I didn't get your, the first image, the one that came in the email. I completely did not get it. And I was actually going to skip your talk. And so I thank you for sharing how these images came to be birthed or created, because it completely changes my perception of them. And it gives me an understanding of your intention, which I could not get before. I did feel that there was probably some satirical or ironical elements to them, but now I totally get it. I'm normally not attracted to this kind of studio setup with little figures,
Yes.
because it doesn't reach me intellectually or emotionally. So I hope, I was just trying to be completely honest here, not be at all, insulting, because it's probably due to my own limitation that I couldn't understand the images. But now that you've explained it all, it's very intriguing. And I love the satirical elements and the funny elements to them all. So thank you.
Thank you. Which, I saw a few different, what went out in the invitation? Which image do you remember?
I think it was the Holofernes, where she's
Oh,
sitting on the
yes. She's
desk
doing
and
the
the
same-
head is on the ground.
Yes, okay.
And it was impenetrable to me. I couldn't make sense of it.
Everybody, like what floats your boat, it's all different. I see I look at so much photography and there's so much of it. It's like, not my thing, not my thing. And that's perfectly fine. That's why we have this wonderful, diverse community of photographers, but
Yeah,
yeah.
but getting an insight through your explanation completely flips the whole thing.
Hmm.
So, I'm really glad I attended your
Well,
talk.
I'm glad you came. Yeah.
Yeah, because it makes such a difference. And the work the time, the perfectionism that you invest into this is would be me. Would be me. I'm impatient, and this
Kind
what
of
you do
crazy, yeah.
so
It's a little-
much
It takes a
patience,
certain personality, that's for sure.
but
Yeah, I
it's
have-
highly intellectualized.
Thank you.
I
I
have
also
just one.
really enjoy, oh, go ahead, Jim.
I'm sorry, just real quick. I said I was done, but one more thing.
I
One of the things
apologize.
I like so much is that it is that your work in this series, a lot of it is grounded in historical work, which I think is really cool. There's a lot of what do you call it? Research that you had to do that. I think it's a great way to start a series, is do some kind of historical work and then try to recreate that in whatever image you want. So,
Mm.
okay, now I'm done again.
I'll tell you, I learned a lot. I learned a lot that I never learned in school.
Yeah.
Hi, Grace. Can you guys hear me? This
Yes,
is
ma'am.
Lisa.
Hi,
Hi,
Lisa.
Michael. You and I met this summer. I had a piece in your summer show.
Yes, yeah.
And Grace and I just serendipitously met through an art group. So I'm with you on Network,
Oh,
Grace.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hi.
Nice
Oh,
to meet
hi.
you.
Yes, you too.
Yeah, no, I love your work. It's whimsical, but the references, the historical references, really very much feminist references, are brilliant. Like, I'm sort of like was it the woman that was just speaking? I was like, well, these are fun. And then you keep looking and then you keep and then you're like, oh my God, I know what this comes from. So that was a great journey to take with your work. Cause we all played with Barbies and it's kid stuff,
Right,
but
right.
I was so impressed with the way you put everything together.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Actually, let's see. Michael sent me some questions before, because I do feel like sometimes there's people that look at it and go, oh, dolls, blah.
Unfortunately, but
Well,
yes.
I apply for grants and things and I can tell sometimes when it doesn't hit with the juror,
Yeah.
you learn from, but, Michael asked me, why dolls? Why using dolls? And, one reason is that it's very practical for me. I take a long time. I don't want to use a human model and take their time, and it makes me very nervous and stressed out, and I don't want to pay a model, So working in miniature, I also don't have to store large sets or need more room. So those are the practical reasons. But then also dolls go back before Venus of
Oh.
Willendorf,
Absolutely.
Humans have always made and played with and projected onto dolls. And another thing that's very funny to me is that boys play with dolls too, but they call them action figures. And once again, that shows the distaste for the feminine. So to me, that it really all ties together and reinforces my message, so yeah.
Very impressive. Really, really loved the journey that you took us on. Really lovely. And nice to meet you sort of virtually.
Yeah. I'll probably see you again.
Yes.
And
I was
so
wondering, since you-
many dolls for the reinterpretation you give them. I mean, you totally flip. You change my perception of dolls and photography. So yay dolls, the way you use them and see them and play them.
Well, that Long Night series, the noir series, I only showed a few in here, but it's a bigger series and it's all noir and it's suburban adult stories. And that's what I say in my statement. I said, these are, children's props, but these are adult stories, and they're, and I grew up in the 60s and adults it was very, parenting was very different than now. My parents, they had, the adults had their own sophisticated, separate life that looked very mysterious and intriguing to me. And they had secrets and they had cigarettes and cocktails. And that's kind of what fed that series for me. So anyway, yeah. So
I have a last question, sorry.
I get to play with dolls all day.
Speaking of dolls and Barbie, I wondered, I know that, sterile again, I know that from what I heard, that they can be very litigious, and I just wondered if when you were using active Barbies, I'm really curious, also as a photographer and copyright and all that stuff, I've just wondered what, yeah, like what's been the situation regarding that? Ooh, tell
Right.
us the juicy details.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's with a lot of my work, I tried to not show faces. Especially if it was Barbie, I used to, try not to show the face, and now I can change the face on a Barbie, but I have these smaller dolls, or Heidi-Ott dolls, and I've used them a lot, and I just haven't worried about it. But also, Mattel, years and years ago, decades ago, they sued an artist, but I
Yeah.
believe, if I understand it right, the artist won. And Mattel has really loosened up. I mean, and they're making really wonderful, diverse dolls now, because it used to be very hard to find even a black doll, a black adult doll.
Yeah, yeah.
And in the Heidi-Ott dolls, they have black dolls that all they are is this white doll, but dark. So they don't have dark, they don't have black features, so now Mattel is very diverse and very progressive. And I've seen a lot of other work with Barbie dolls that are much more, they really show the Barbie a lot more than my work does. And there seems to be no problem right now.
Oh, that's good. I'm really glad to
Yeah,
hear
and
that.
I've never been challenged on it, so fingers crossed.
Awesome. Thanks.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Grace. It's been a great evening.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michael. I really appreciate it. This has been great.
and
Sorry
thanks
about the
everybody for coming.
technical issues at the beginning.
Hey, Grace, so Jason Isley speaking. Mind if I ask a question for a sec?
Sure.
So, your American Horror Show series, looking forward to seeing how that turns out. And can I ask, any chance you might be considering including in it the current international relations with the US, for example, the tariff wars?
Possibly. I have some ideas. One thing I do not want to do, because I can't stand the thought of it, is I don't want to have a doll that looks like Trump or
Ugh.
looks like any of them, I don't want their faces. But there's a lot you can show of the power just through bodies and hands with whatever they're controlling. And so I have some ideas around that. But yeah, someone said to me, oh, I got this Ken doll, and they said, oh, his hair, you could really make that hair look like Trump. And it's just like, I just can't bear the thought of another image of him personally, but there's a lot of ways to represent the power, there's a lot of ways to represent power and money and greed. There's other ways. So all of this is on the, it's cooking, it's all cooking.
Because if I was you, I'd put something in there of a doll representing America, and one that with the Canada's not for sale, and another one with the Mexicans aren't going anywhere.
Right. There's a lot. There's a real plethora of material.
Actually, I think a really strong one would be
Mm.
something to do with Hegseth and the military and his views on women in the military,
Oh, yeah.
which are extremely limiting. And
It's another one of Michael's questions. He said now that society seems to be regressing, does reclaiming the muse demand a different perspective? He asked me about that. And one of the things I was going to say is feminism, it's not a trend. It does seem to be cyclical, and then there's the backlash, and then we make a little more progress, and then there's the backlash. But well, what was I going to say about that? No, I forgot. Would you say your point again, your question?
oh, it was
Just about feminism.
suggestion that, yeah,
in the
that,
military. Yeah.
no, I wasn't. I was talking about Hegseth and the military,
Yes.
men in the military, and
Yeah,
how he has been so really has such limited views of what women offer in the military.
yeah, yeah,
And in general, the whole administration has very limited views.
yeah. We're just, it's cyclical, you know, this particular cycle is really scary. But yeah,
I think it could be quite visual too, because, you know, it almost conjures up G.I. Jane dolls, you know?
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
Well, there's
exactly.
also some really hilarious imperialistic projects of about, you know, Greenland and Canada
Yeah,
being another state, and then the Gulf of Mexico, you know. I mean, there's such imperialistic ideas that are absolutely hilarious.
yeah.
I mean, they're
But
hilarious to me. I'm a European, and I cannot even conceive in today's age to actually claim someone else's
I know.
country.
uh,
Or
uh,
Panama, you know,
excuse me for
not the rights
interrupting,
of
but
the local people, nothing. It's completely disregarded anyway.
excuse me for interrupting, but this was an amazing talk. I really enjoyed it, but I have to leave.
All right, so nice to
Thank you
meet
so
you,
much.
Jim.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thanks.
Take care.
You certainly have a plethora of subjects if you're going to undertake this political subject. You should
Yeah.
have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, it's one of the ways I'm keeping my sanity. Well,
But thank you ever so much, because you completely changed my mind
oh,
and my
wonderful.
perceptions of your work completely.
Well, thank
So
you.
thank you.
I really appreciate the opportunity.
It enlarged, you know, it reduced my visual limitations and my conceptual perceptions. So thank you. Thank you so much for this talk.
Mhm.
Okay, we're gonna call it an evening there.
I think
Thank
so.
you all. And hopefully we'll see you next month.
Thanks very much. This was a great talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks.
And
Yeah,
thank you,
thanks.
Grace. That was great.
Yeah, thank you to both of you.